The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah! Go Cowboys! This is Talkin Cowboys. Streaming live from the Dallas Cowboys World Headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
C.D. Lamb, touchdown.
Parsons has sacked it. Prescott keeps it, and he bangs it in for the touchdown.
And now your hosts, Isaiah Stanback, Patrick Walker, Josh Rodriguez, and Kyle Yeomans.
It's a June edition of Talkin Cowboys presented by Black Rifle Coffee Company, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the SWBC studios. Welcoming everybody. We've got Patrick No C Walker. We've got Josh Rodriguez. We've got Tommy Yarish with Chris Beam in the back. I'm Kyle Yeomans. So glad you've joined us. We have flipped the calendar to June. We are one month closer to football. Ooh. We are right around the corner now. Of course, OTAs continue this week. We've got access to practice starting this afternoon, and so we'll get to talk to Coach Schottenheimer shortly, get to talk to the players in the locker room, much like we did all of last week as well. Media days are this week, and that's a big thing around here, so it's kept all of us busy over the last couple of days, but getting some FaceTime with some of these players, getting to really know and feel that culture that Brian Schottenheimer continues to try and build here. And then next week, it is minicamp time.
Mm-hmm. Minicamp, we're only 90 some odd days away
from training
mandatory, too. It's mandatory.
I know.
It's mandatory.
That's a big word.
Yes, it's big. It's
big word around here.
Big word around these parts.
Mandatory.
Annually, it's a big word around these parts, it seems.
Can you spell it like the Frisco, Texas, or the Allen, Texas native that won the National Spelling Bee the other day?
No.
Shouts to that person.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You guys
go
ever
North
participated
Texas.
in the Spelling Bee?
I did once. I didn't win it. Shocker. But I did actually participate in one.
What word did you stumble on?
I don't remember.
What was the best word that you got?
I don't remember.
Indubitably. Spell it.
That's it.
Okay.
I tripped up on that one.
I know exactly what word. I was in the Spelling Bee annually from like grade school all the way up to ninth grade. And I would routinely make district. I made state a couple times back in Georgia. But the word that really
state
slight
finalist
flex, yeah,
Patrick No C Walker.
Drop that in there.
It just is what it is.
That's why he's got to say No C in the name.
It just is what it is. Words are me, and I am words. Onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia.
So to this day, I can spell it in my sleep because that was the word that got me eliminated. No, we're not doing that right now.
Spell it.
We're not doing that.
Why?
O-N-O.
It's the last part that'll throw you after the letter.
It is. Yeah, I would have missed it. O-N-O-M-A-T-O-P-O.
That's what it throws. It's the P-O-E-I.
Yeah, the P-O-E-I-A.
Yeah, so I was like P-E, and they were like, eh.
You're like, get out of here.
Why'd you do this to a sixth grader?
Also good comic book.
Why'd you throw onomatopoeia out of the sixth grader in front of everybody, all of their loved ones? That's traumatic.
Hey, you're a professional writer now. You made it.
It worked out.
Yeah.
Ha ha, joke's on you.
Unqualified.
I feel like Tommy would have won like every spelling bee he was ever in.
Absolutely not. No, I didn't participate in one.
That Texas education didn't give you any opportunity.
No, that is no. I'm not. I'm nowhere.
No.
I'm nowhere near smart enough to participate in a spelling bee.
Yeah, me neither.
I use autocorrect is the greatest invention that ever happened to technology. Just because there are so many words. Like even to this day, there are simple words that I like just misspell from time to time, and I just keep seeing it corrected and corrected. I'm really making myself sound horrible here, but that's all right.
You're being really hard on yourselves.
Yeah, no, autocorrect is a great tool, and I'm very glad it's there because spelling bees would never have been in my future.
Yeah, it's weird. My whenever I type in my text messages, it says OTAs. It automatically corrects it to news and notes. Patrick, would you like to give us some OTA news?
What
and
a
notes?
segue! Hey, give him another Emmy for that.
Good Lord. Okay, so news and notes. Obviously, no transactions here over the past couple weeks since OTAs have begun. We'll see if the Cowboys continue that trend or if they make a move here as mandatory minicamp gets ready to fire up, and then of course they will go into their lull before training camp. But now that it is officially June and it is June 2nd, some transactions should start to land around the league now that it's post June 1st.
June 3rd.
June 3rd. Hey, there you go. But it's still post June 1st.
It is post June 1st, technically.
Post June 1st, however you slice it. So some transactions should start.
I'm taking points off of that one, like a spelling bee.
See,
Like a spelling bee.
Triggered. But no, so for the most part, news and notes are based on conversations that we've all had with players in the locker room coming out of OTAs last week and the week prior, as well as just observations for guys that we've seen on the field. I will say one of the biggest news and notes for me kind of leads right into a guy who's going to be leaned upon heavily. A lot of eyes are on him, and I'm talking about Tyler Guyton. He sounds much more confident. Not that he didn't sound confident last year. This time last year, but as the season wore on and he really began to feel the rigors of the NFL season and what that means and what that entails and the toll it took on his body, and he came to an awakening and understood that he wasn't taking as great of care of his body as he thought he was. So what does he do? He gets with Tyler Smith. He gets with the Cowboys nutritionist, completely overhauls his diet, ditches fast foods and fried foods entirely, switches to high protein meals. He said lots of salmon, steak, chicken, things like that. He is leaner, and I asked him if he's looking to tweak a little bit more going into training camp, maybe add some more muscle mass. Not that he's a slim guy by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see that some of that added unnecessary weight has completely melted off. He said he's moving much better. He's moving his mass much more easily. His joints feel better. That's great news because he understands exactly what the Cowboys need him to be going into year 2. This is a revamped offensive line with Zach Martin now retiring. Elder statesmen are Terrence Steele and Tyler Smith, and Tyler Smith is going into year 4. So that tells you an elder statesman in year 4. A lot of youth there, so the blind side of Dak Prescott's going to have to be pretty solid.
I want to hit on Tyler Guyton there because that was a big storyline from this past week because it started with Brian Schottenheimer talking about him in the press conference and alluding to how good of an offseason he's had. Because he was talking about all the offensive linemen. The question, was it your question?
It was, yeah. I asked him
about Booker, right?
About Tyler Booker, and he kind of, on his own accord, went out of his way to talk about Tyler Guyton. And so, that says something that, okay, this guy's sticking out at practice to the head coach, but at least from our perspective, and, I wasn't here last year during training camp, but there were a couple of times where I heard you guys talking about, man, this guy stonewalled Micah Parsons, and, he's looking really good, but the ebbs and flows in terms of, okay, he's out these days and he's not getting the snaps on certain days for a rookie, especially a left tackle, one of the most premium positions in football. That's valuable reps that you're missing. So now that he's healthy, Brian Schottenheimer mentioned he's been here every day for OTAs and every day for practice. Those are reps that a young guy like him absolutely needs to get better. Now, it's great that he's done the work with his body and it's great that he's slimmed up, but some of the issues that he had last year were cerebral and, just way too many bad penalties. So I appreciate him, I appreciate him making the changes in his body, and it's something that a lot of young players have to deal with in terms of changing their diet, getting their lifestyle right. But there's still a lot that he needs to do to really take that jump. Now, Cowboys offensive linemen have done that in year 1 to year 2. They've taken jumps forward, but Guyton's got a big jump to take, and I think he's going to really benefit from a coaching staff that has prioritized the offensive line with guys like Clayton Adams and Connor Riley.
I think we talked about that last year after he was drafted and coming into the league, in that he didn't necessarily have an offseason. He immediately jumped into training, and that was something that
switch positions.
So, of course, there's going to be growing pains along with that. And then he had some health availability issues during camp and throughout the season. I think all of that is combined in saying that he didn't necessarily have a break as soon as he was drafted to the NFL. Now, with a better understanding of how the year is going to go for him from a playing aspect, and on top of it, too, your article was excellent. I felt like I was reading like a bodybuilder magazine article. Because I loved articles on like health, fitness, nutrition, all of that. It doesn't look like I love it, but I do, I swear.
I disagree.
I also disagree.
And have you seen these? Behind the scenes, I know the work that you put in the gym. So
exactly. So, but I love that. I love it. It's inspirational for sure. But it also goes to show how he's maturing in a way, like you said, getting rid of even nutrition, like you're saying, fast foods, all of that. It's clear that he's putting in the work. Obviously, now he has a better understanding of how the season's going to go and what the position is going to demand of him.
Well, we talked about, and Tommy alluded to the year 1 to year 2 jump. Think back to Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith was a solid rookie season. He put together a great rookie season, played a lot of left tackle, kind of bounced around a little bit. And then once he settled into a spot and had a full offseason, he became a Pro Bowler the year after that. I'm not anticipating a Pro Bowl type season from Tyler Guyton, actually a second team AP for Tyler Smith too. you're not anticipating that sort of jump. But what is the jump that's anticipated from Guyton that would ease your mind about the offensive line? Because to answer my own question, it would be a considerable solidified starter at left tackle. Somebody that you can rely on. Does he have to have a Pro Bowl? No. Does he have to have an All-Pro? No. Would both of those things be awesome if you can get that type of play out of him? Absolutely. Make it happen. However, I think as long as he solidifies his availability, one, and stays on the field and becomes a solidified starter to where the penalties go down, the pressures go down.
What does that look like for you?
That's what it would look like.
So for me, I agree. It looks like, a significant reduction in penalties, and it looks like a significant increase in availability.
Yes.
Right? So
he played in 11 games last year.
Exactly. So stay on the field, remain healthy, do away with the large majority of the penalties, and I think that the rest will kind of start to settle in because, again, this is going to be the first or the second full year, only the second full year of him playing left tackle at the football level. So for me, it's just those two things, and I think the rest will settle in, especially as he gets more of that combo chemistry with Tyler Smith. I think that will work itself out. And Tyler Smith, he spoke with us as well. More so about Booker, but he also made some key points about Tyler Guyton's progress and how they as an offensive unit have been kind of ingratiating themselves with each other, whether it be cookouts or working out in the offseason, things like that. All of these things matter. These are things that the media doesn't always see. These are things that fans rarely see, but it's the type of camaraderie that builds the type of brotherhood that you saw with like Travis Frederick and Zach Martin and Tyron Smith. And, oh, by the way, weren't those 3 first-round picks in a span of 4 years? Well, who are the 3 now in the span of 4 years? It's Tyler Smith, it's Tyler Guyton, and it's Tyler Booker. So it's the Tyler show. So if those guys, along with Cooper Beebe, obviously, and Terrence Steele, if they can gel like the Cowboys and Schottenheimer are looking for them to, then Tyler Guyton will come along as he starts to see other guys come along.
All of a sudden, I miss Tyler Biotish.
We don't need another Tyler. Well,
there's
4 Tylers on the roster.
I don't miss Tyler Biotish.
Tyler Neville. Shouts out to Tyler Neville.
You got Tyler Neville. You had Tyler Biotish up front. That would have been interesting. All 4 of the guys on the left side.
Bring Steven Tyler in here just because, you know what I mean? At that point, just
all tied up.
Oh, that's a good show title.
All tied up?
All tied up.
Book it.
All right. What's next on the OTA news and notes list?
From there, we talk about, I know that Tommy had a fantastic piece about Osa, and I'll defer to him on that. Let him tell you what Osa was talking about and progress and things.
What was Osa talking about?
What's Osa talking about?
So I think the interesting part of what Osa was talking about was, and I've talked about this in the past on the shows, is that, look, Matt Eberflus in the past has said, hey, the 3-technique defensive tackle is the engine of his defense, right? That's kind of where it all starts. And so this is a guy that the Cowboys paid $80 million over the next 4 years for. And you bring in a guy like Matt Eberflus, that's a big part of his defense and a big role that has to be played in that scheme. So he said, based off some of the things that we're being asked to do right now, I was going back and just watching some of the tape from last year. I'm like, if I was doing the stuff that we're being coached to do now, I'm making this play, I'm making that play. So just seeing that there's going to be a lot more opportunities based on the stuff that he's having us do. So, that's always a good thing, and it's easy to say in retrospect, right? Like when you go back and watch film on yourself, you say, okay, well, if I had done this and I had done that, obviously the spur of the moment, the heat of the moment, you do different things. But the adjustments that need to take place so that you can do those things in the game setting happen behind the scenes in practice and, when you work schematically with your coaching staff and just prepare for those kinds of situations. So, Matt Eberflus was what he was as a head coach, but as a defensive play caller, this guy's really good, I think. And, he's had a good history in terms of those 3-technique defensive tackles, and his defenses overall have been good, and it starts up front on the defensive line. They usually stop the run pretty well, which is something that Dallas has struggled to do for the last however many years. I don't know if they've got the personnel necessarily to be in great shape right now, but if you want to be in great shape, it's got to start with the 3-tech and Matt Eberflus's defense, and they've got a pretty good one in Osa.
Did he talk about working with Solomon Thomas at all? I know he was kind of a big topic on the last episode, but I'm just curious, what their tandem is going to look like going into the season.
If they did, I don't know if I put it in here, but
he did. I asked him specifically how are things coming along with bringing Solomon Thomas into what is going to be a new culture, but also just the impact of and what it means to have Solomon Thomas, because we talked about it before. Osa averaged over the first 3 years of his NFL career, he averaged just around 60% of the defensive snaps. Okay, well, because of injury and lack of production behind him on the depth chart last season, it ballooned to 78%. You're not going to be able to get him or keep him fresh in fourth quarters or even the second half of the season. And we talk about availability. Knock on wood, he's been healthy to this point, but how much longer does that last if you keep him at 75, 78, 80%? Solomon Thomas, in that aspect alone, I believe will be massive for the durability, the continued durability of Osa.
He'll be massive in multiple ways.
Right. That guy. But Osa was talking about that. He talked about the Cowboys adding another proven playmaker in Solomon Thomas, not necessarily just a rookie that's coming in that has to learn how the NFL works and learn the speed of the game. But Solomon Thomas, he's been there, done that, been productive doing it. So when you add that talent in rotation with Osa talked about how excited he was with that. And I'm right there with him. I said it once Solomon Thomas was signed. I was like, I love the dynamic of them rotating, but then also you have to know that every once in a while they will play shoulder to shoulder in certain sets, and that's exciting as well. When does that happen? What's the down and distance? That's going to be interesting.
And the other interesting thing with Solomon Thomas too, and I just realized that I put this in the article, was this is a guy who around the league is one of the more respected people. When we met him, he talked a little bit about his defensive line foundation that he works with Dak Prescott with for mental health for children.
His twin.
Osa was kind of talking about that too from a leadership standpoint. Is like, hey, Solomon Thomas came in, Dante Fowler's been here before, DeMarcus Lawrence leaving, that leaves a big leadership gap on the defensive line. So it's up to him, Micah Parsons, Solomon Thomas, and those guys to kind of try and fill that void. And so, that's another aspect of Solomon Thomas that he fits from a culture perspective. Now, from a scheme perspective, he's not the biggest guy in terms of height. I know you gave me that look. In terms of height, he's not the tallest
Josh
guy.
is just getting off of being viral
he's
this
not,
past
yeah,
week.
I know. Follow him on TikTok.
We're talking width.
We're done.
Good
Width-wise, it doesn't get much better than that. But
Earth, if you will.
from a defensive tackle standpoint, he's a little bit undersized from that perspective. And last week, I think Solomon talked about that as well. But this is a guy who's just trying to fit in. He plays nitty-gritty, and he's going to need to, frankly, for this defense. I don't think he's kind of lived up to the billing. Or he's, the third overall pick back in 2017?
I like that
right?
you're bringing that up. Yes, he was. I kind of chuckled there a little bit because all of it's fun and games right now. You're hitting batting practice home runs.
Right.
I love it. It's the off season. You're practicing. Things look great. The swing's crisp. You're going to have to hit home runs, though, when teams are trying to strike you out.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
Right. The sweeping curve.
Exactly. Once you can hit the curveball, then we'll be fine. But when Patrick was talking about Osa's comments about having a proven playmaker, my devil's advocate comment would be, when has he been proven? When has he done that?
When has he proven it?
He's had different flashes.
I was going to say, he's flashed.
But the consistency hasn't been there. If it was there at any point, he was a third overall pick. He would get the benefit of the doubt wherever he would have ended up. He would have either stayed in San Francisco or stayed in Las Vegas or stayed in New York instead. I mean, he spent 3 years in New York. That's a decent tenure there. He could spend 2 or 3 years here in Dallas, and I think that would be a win because that means he did something enough to
contributed
to keep him around.
Absolutely.
But to this point in his career, I think it would be safe to say that his production has not matched the expectation.
That's fair.
A third overall pick. But do you feel a sort of comfort as far as the familiarity with Aaron White and Cotton goes?
Absolutely. See, in terms of leadership, in terms of X's and O's and fit in
someone that obviously understands his system, of course.
All of that I'm cool with. And I think it will benefit him. But I think going into it saying that he's a proven playmaker, I don't think I would tab him as that. I don't think I would tab him as a proven playmaker. I would say a proven leader. I would say a proven teammate, which is fine, and you need those guys on your team.
That's fair.
But if you're going to look at me and say, outside of Osa, he's the next best playmaker on your team, I don't feel great about it.
Well, here's the question. Let's dovetail from that, and those are fair points, absolutely. Let's dovetail from that, and let's go youthful, okay? Mm-hmm. Keep to the defensive tackle position, keep into OTA's observations. Jay Toia, and it's pronounced Doia. Practicing this, Doia. Taking reps with the first teamers.
It's going to be fun in the preseason.
Taking reps with the first teamers. That's going to be some fun there because obviously we know the Cowboys are hoping for a huge step from Mozzie Smith in year 3. And typically, as trends go, more often than not, year 3 tends to be the breakout year or the most likely breakout year for defensive linemen, defensive tackles. So could that be for Mozzie Smith? Fingers crossed we hope that's the case. But if we're talking about incoming guys, so now we've talked about, a former third overall pick who's been in the league, and Solomon Thomas, and he's being added, right? On the opposite side of the spectrum, you got a late round pick, a 7th round pick, a rookie, and Jay Thoia, who has the size and he has the skill set. How quickly can he put that into play? That's what's going to make it interesting, because if he can make even a par level impact for this defensive tackle position, if Solomon Thomas can match serve or better, this team is in a much better position at DT than they were last year.
That's a low bar to try and cross.
That's fair.
And try and get over.
That's fair.
However,
but it's
you're right.
still one that they need to get over.
They got to get over it at some point.
And if you want to look at it from, if you're thinking best case scenario with Solomon Thomas and Thoia, you look at Thomas, he had his best 3 years, I think, in the NFL under Aaron Whitecotton. Mm-hmm. So something has worked there, at least relative to the rest of his career. Something's worked there. And two, Thoia was part of, 2 top 10 defenses his last 2 years of college at UCLA. The difference, though, both of them are undersized, and Thoia's coming into this as a rookie, and he's not playing Stanford anymore. So, was Stanford? No, Stanford's not in the Big Ten, are they? They didn't. Okay, he's not playing USC anymore. So, it's a lot to ask for from a guy that early.
He played Stanford while he was in the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's sure. Rest in peace, Pac-12. Are they actually coming back? I think.
Kind of.
But it's a lot to ask for a rookie, and it's a lot to ask for Solomon Thomas, I think, too, because in the sense that this is a defensive line that needs a lot of help, I think. Yeah. Outside of Oso Digizua and Mozzie Smith is still a big question mark, and you're telling me that in the depth of that rotation, we're relying on a 7th round pick.
Two 7th round picks. I was going to ask, where's Justin Rogers on your?
Yeah, Justin Rogers, Tommy Akingbisote. Yeah. Denzel Daxon, there's only 7 bodies in that room, and it is not very deep, I don't think.
It is not.
So that's got to be. I know we'll talk about this a little bit later in the show, but that is concerning.
Let's move into it. We were originally going to have it in the 3rd segment. Let's keep things rolling. Coming up next, I want to talk about top 3 needs currently on this Cowboys roster. Things that we can look at after OTAs and getting a better look at this team. Do you still feel the same as you did prior to OTAs and prior to the offseason workouts about specific holes on the roster? Then later in the show, who does George Pickens' presence help the most on this Cowboys offense? That's going to be our 3rd segment. When we come back, we've got that. We've got a couple things to talk about on the comment section, our comment of the day. If you have the YouTube comment section up, get involved. Have some fun in there and be nice to everybody. When we come back with more Talkin' Cowboys. If you're looking for fresh American roasted coffee that gives back, you need to head to your local grocery store and pick up a bag of Black Rifle coffee. That's right, America's coffee is now available in the coffee aisle of a grocery store near you. Black Rifle Coffee Company is veteran-founded with a mission to give back to those brave men and women who have served our nation. Every bag, box, or can you purchase helps support that mission. Head to your local grocery store and roast yourself some Black Rifle coffee today.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
It's the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black. And right now, Cowboys fans can get 15% off their $75 order. Plus, because every deal needs a playmaker, your order will include a free 5-piece skincare set and free shipping. The Jack Black Playmaker is 4 of Jack's favorites and a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Make a play for the playmaker at getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys with the code CowboysVIP.
If you shout, "How about them Cowboys?" you have that undeniable passion that's the heart of Cowboys Nation. And if you like to drink Dr. Pepper, you love the unique blend of its 23 flavors. Together, your one-of-a-kind fandom paired with the one-of-a-kind taste of a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper is the game day lineup that can't be beat. Better yet, gather your Cowboys and Dr. Pepper fan friends to watch the next game and crack open a delicious ice-cold Dr. Pepper for everyone. The wins will be even tastier. It's a pepper thing.
Back to Talkin' Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys, this segment of the show is brought to you by Invisalign, the official smile of the Dallas Cowboys. Patrick Nosey-Walker, Josh Rodriguez,
Hi.
Tommy Yarish. All right, so our comment of the day today actually is a question. It's a great question because we talked a little bit about the offensive line position. 1906 exec, so I don't know what that means, but that's the name on YouTube, says, serious question about right tackle. I expect the rookie to struggle, but Terrence Steele has been rough since returning from injury and has become a liability. Do you believe that? Two, is that something of a concern, and should somebody like Awesome Richards get a shot moving into the
I
latter?
wholeheartedly disagree, but I completely understand the comments. I think if you're watching Terrence Smith exclusively over the last 2 years since he's been back from his injury, I don't think you can say that he's a liability. I think he is inconsistent, which has been an issue, and he's facing a lot of excellent lines. He's facing a lot of excellent lines, not only throughout the league, but in the division. I mean, it's just a tough task, a tall order for anybody. I just think it's just been inconsistency. And who knows if he's granted, it's been 2 years since that injury, but like, who knows if he came back from that injury 100%. I would say last year should be your barometer on like judging his production since that injury, if that makes sense.
I agree, but not in this timeline, not in this current timeline. And let me explain. When he was initially returning from injury, I could argue that he was a bit of a liability out there. I could absolutely argue that. He didn't have a lot of confidence in the knee. He had to get over the mental hurdle of having suffered which was at that time the most devastating football injury that he had ever suffered. As time has gone on, you've seen some inconsistency, but what you've also seen, and I'll pull up the stats here in a moment while you guys are talking about it. Last year alone, he got progressively better. But when did he get progressively better? When Zach Martin got injured and got pulled off of the field. Then you saw better play at right guard, which then allowed Terrence Steele to excel a bit more at right tackle, as opposed to trying to figure out the combo block with a guy like Zach Martin, who obviously future first ballot Hall of Famer, but just wasn't playing like himself. So he was struggling within his own body. He had a degenerative ankle and knee issue. So he couldn't, so the combo blocks weren't there, et cetera, et cetera. And then you bring in Brock Hoffman, and all of a sudden Terrence Steele is playing much better. So I think that as much as it is the time that's now being removed from the injury that's helping Terrence Steele, what's also going to help him is just better right guard play.
Yeah.
Insert Tyler Booker into this conversation. So if Tyler Booker can be that, and immediately, then you're going to see Terrence Steele become what Terrence Steele once was when he went from being an undrafted guy to earning the right to be the right starting right tackle, and then earned another contract in doing so. Yeah. So again, for me, it's less of what's Terrence Steele going to do and more of what does it look like at right guard? What is Tyler Booker going to do almost immediately? I think those two things play hand in hand.
That's fair.
You know, I think we've talked a lot about how this offensive staff is so centered around the offensive line, and they're going to develop this offensive line to run the ball well. Something that a friend of the show, Nick Harris, has said over and over again is there is nobody on the offensive line that's going to benefit more from this new staff than Terrence Steele. And I wholeheartedly agree with that.
It was he and Bobby Belt that led that charge on the draft show.
Absolutely. And they're both correct.
1,000%.
100%. And, you know, I think when you look at Terrence Steele's earlier career, when he and Zach Martin were playing together, they complemented each other so well, and Zach Martin loved to play alongside Terrence Steele. That was one of his favorite guys to go and block with, and you clearly saw why. They were able to run the ball really well, and they worked very well together on the right side of the offensive line. To build off of what Patrick's saying, nobody's going to benefit from the Cowboys drafting Tyler Booker more than Terrence Steele, because there's your he's not. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be Zach Martin, but it's better than Zach Martin with a degenerative ankle issue.
Right.
So, you know, anytime you've got that kind of problem on the offensive line, then you know it's going to be a downgrade in health. But you know, and even with health, it's something that we've kind of talked about a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And Javonte Williams talked about it a while ago too. Is, you know, everybody's return from injuries like that, especially when they're that severe, is different, right? Some guys it may take a year. Some guys it may take 2 years. Some guys it just may never be the same again. And so, you know, I think you saw last year towards the tail end of the season that Terrence Steele was slowly but surely starting to put it together with some consistency next to him. And now that he's going to have, you know, Tyler Booker for the foreseeable future next to him, you would think that's going to be a good sign as well.
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think this year's going to be a really good indication on whether or not Terrence Steele is your long-term answer at right tackle, because you have the new coaching staff that should benefit. He's a year further along removed from his injury than what he was previously. He's going to have a young, hungry, strong right guard that's going to be healthy, knock on wood, to play next to. There's all these things that are playing a factor to helping Terrence Steele be better in 2025 than he was in 2024. If it doesn't happen, that's when you have the questions around, is he the future at right tackle?
Absolutely.
So he's going to have, there's a lot on the line for him this year and moving into it. Nothing's going to change before the end of the year, though.
And is this the last year that he's under contract?
I think he's got one more after this.
After this year?
I can double check that momentarily.
I should have checked it. Go ahead.
I want to go into top 3 needs on this roster. If you had to rank them 1, 2, and 3 of position groups that you feel like could use another piece, another player, where would you start with that, Patrick? 1, 2, and 3. Go through your entire list.
1, 2, and 3. That's a good one, because I will give the Cowboys credit. They have addressed these positions. Just when you thought that they weren't going to address wide receiver, they dropped George.
Oh,
George
he's under
Pickens
contract till 28.
Yeah.
He's there for a while.
They dropped George Pickens in your lap at wide receiver.
But there's an out after this year, potential out on Terrence Steele's contract. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. I'm processing. Defensive tackle, you go and you get Solomon Thomas. You at least have some solid potential, albeit late round picks. Jay Toya, for example, King Bisote. Safety, you got the, I don't want to say the old guard, but you got the veterans with Malik Hooker, Donovan Wilson, and then you got the young guard, Marquise Bell, albeit coming back from injury. Looks good so far, moving around in OTAs. Wanye Thomas, very high ceiling there at safety. I'm going to say cornerback. It's probably, I'm going to go with cornerback as my number 1.
Okay.
Trevon Diggs, when does he come back?
Huge question.
What does he look like when he comes back? Deron Bland, are you keeping him outside, or are you moving him back into the nickel because you lost Jordan Lewis?
He did take some snaps in the nickel.
He did.
It's OTAs.
He did.
Again,
a lot of snaps at nickel.
It's OTAs.
I know. I'm just saying. He
Got
took
a
a lot
long
of
way to
snaps.
go.
I'm just saying.
And then it goes from there, really. Kalen Carson, up and down, rookie season, more downs than ups, coming off of season-ending IR. What does he look like in year 2? Josh Butler, when will he be ready? Probably no time soon, because he suffered his torn ACL in December. You just have a lot of questions.
He's running already, though.
He is, though. But as far as being medically cleared to
of course
run around against teams,
of course,
probably, because typically you're talking about a year for that to happen. He might not be ready until a potential postseason game. You went and traded for Khair Elam. But what does that look like for you? That's a big question mark. So for me, number 1, cornerback, still a pressing concern for me. I don't know how that shakes out. From there, I'm going to go, I think you're set at tight end. I think Brevin Spann-Ford is going to really push that for TE3, might even push Schoonmaker for TE2, to be honest. I think Jake bounces back. And Jake Ferguson didn't have as bad a year, as poor year as fans are making it out to be. It's just, it wasn't as great as the previous year, which was a Pro Bowl year. But then, you had a quarterback, you had change, you had injuries.
Yeah, he was fighting through
the knee.
Yeah.
So I think he bounces back, I think tight end. So cornerback, I still need to see what the running back room looks like. I need to see. So I'm going to go running back at number 2. And oh boy, number 3. Well, we talked about it. Let's just go back to defensive tackle, just because I need to see how that shakes out.
Absolutely. For me, priority-wise, number 1 would be cornerback. I don't know who your starting 3 at this point are, and a lot of that is due to health. I mean, I think you have bodies, but healthy bodies is the question mark. Is Deron Bland going to be starting in the slot? Who knows? I mean, you said he's taking snaps here in OTAs. This is pretty far out. We won't know until we're actually on the field at training camp. So there's just so many question marks at cornerback for me. And then another thing that Tommy brought up earlier in the show was defensive tackle, and just the depth there and the numbers. I mean, you have King Bisote, Odigizua, Rogers, Mozzie Smith, Solomon Thomas, Jay Doia. Is that the way you say it? Doia.
It's like a soft T.
You got to
Doia.
Do.
Okay.
Doia.
And that's where we're at. That was it. That was the end of the list. there is
That's the end of the list.
That's the end of the list. There needs to be more bodies in that room and more significant, I think, bodies to contribute to starting games. I mean, not starting necessarily, but just spelling in more and getting actual snaps. That's a concern for me. The health at defensive end is tricky. I mean, is Sam Williams going to be 100% ready to go? I mean, at this point, you'd think so. I mean, it will be a year once we get to training camp. It was like one of the first practices that we had at training camp where that happened. So it's still up in the air, but I would say cornerback, defensive tackle, and then you have to go. I can't say running back. I can't do it.
Oh, I can. Those are my.
I was going to say I can.
I can't
do
I
it.
did.
Yeah, I would say that order. I would say corner, defensive tackle, running back.
Running
Those are
back.
my 3. Yeah.
I'm kind of okay right now.
Let's throw Isaiah's out there while you're mulling that one really quickly. So Isaiah shouts out to Stan Beck. He's in the group chat.
He said he liked your fresh twist.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Lock brothers, lock bros. Oh my God, lock bros.
Same here in my heart.
In your heart. Hey, give the baldy some love. Isaiah said for him, number 1 is cornerback, number 2 is wide receiver, number 3 is offensive tackle. He's going OT at 3.
There's some people in the comments that I think would agree with that, just based off of the Steele and Guyton conversation that we had throughout the show. Mm-hmm. Some people feel that way. I think both guys were not very good last year and are expected to be better. I would rather see what the 2 younger guys have. I mean, Terrence Steele's still, in his 20s at the moment?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely. See what you've got with him. Let's see what happens there. And then if you have to address tackle next year, address it in free agency. I don't want to have to draft another first-round offensive tackle.
I agree.
But he said wide receiver too?
He said wide receiver.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
I think
you're pretty now. Set there.
But okay, so we've had enough of
but
this dialogue with Isaiah to understand even with Pickens there, he's stuck on WR3.
Yeah.
Like, who is that? But I feel like
I think Tolbert's great.
Between Tolbert and Turpin alone, before you start listing out, okay, well, what
Mingo, Flanoy,
Mingo,
Brooks. It's
Mingo's
a crowded room.
I think Mingo with Dak is going to make a hell of a push for WR3, I believe. Because if you go back and look at Mingo's film in the limited games that he played for the Cowboys after the trade, the disconnect between he and Cooper Rush was evident, but he was separating. Mingo was. Like, he was running good routes. He was getting good separation.
The throws weren't there.
But Cooper Rush just could not. He was skipping the ball. He was sailing the ball. And if I'm Mingo, I'm like, oh, man, am I in Carolina? So I think that
his catch radius was on par with Mr. Incredible at that point.
I think that Mr. Fantastic, if you will. I think that he and Dak will make it.
Fantastic.
Isaiah clarified. He said he says offensive tackle is a depth selection.
That's
so
what
he wants
exactly.
Backup.
I got you, Stat.
Or backup OT.
I got you.
That's fair. That's fair, and that's a valid point. I still don't think that, defensive tackle for me is the most glaring issue on this team. You just don't have depth there. Nope. You don't have reliable depth at all. So Stephen Jones has said over and over again, player acquisition is 24/7. Man, it should be for them if they're looking for another defensive tackle, because I think they're desperately in need of one. I'm not necessarily saying you need to go and get an Aaron Donald or anything like that, but you need somebody who's at least,
please.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
I mean, if he wants to come,
it's a good start.
That's not a bad start, but they don't necessarily need a world breaker. They just need a guy who can come in and be a solid depth piece, who can be in part of the rotation and contribute that way. Yeah. After that, it's running back for me, just because we've heard this coaching staff talk about we're going to run the ball. I don't think they have a dude in that room in terms of, like, this is a guy who can be our bell cow, who can handle the offensive load, who can contribute the most in our run game. They have guys who can be that, who have been that in the past, in Javonte Williams and Miles Sanders, but Javonte Williams is still kind of nursing back from an injury. He said he's fully healthy now. Does that translate? Do you see what we saw from his first couple of years in Denver? Can Miles Sanders find a way to return to what he was in Philadelphia in 22 when he went to the Pro Bowl? It's just too many unknowns. And then Jaden Blue, I know so many people are excited about Jaden Blue, and rightfully so, because this is a guy who can change the game with his speed, but he's not a bell cow. He's not a guy that's going to carry the ball 20, 25 times a game. So where does that fit into this? And I think that's going to be something that, until they figure that room out, it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. And then cornerback for me, I'll put it third, because right now it's not great. It is not great. When you look out on the practice field and you see Kyer Elam and Andrew Booth as your starting corners, that's not.
Don't forget about Keemon Hall. Go Mean Green.
Keemon Hall was taking some slot snaps, but when those two were on the outside, it was Deron Bland in the slot.
Yeah.
So Keemon Hall was another guy taking slot. Wanye Thomas took some slot corner reps too. So, but when they get healthy, it's a pretty good room. It's a pretty good room with Trayvon Diggs.
Assuming they all come back
healthy. Absolutely, and that's a big assumption.
Emphasis on healthy.
But that's what I'm saying.
You didn't have your 3 starters on the field at the same time
at any
point last season,
right? And you see what happens because of it, right? So, but when that room is healthy, it's a pretty good room. And
I agree.
If Savone Revel is what he was on tape at East Carolina, you put those two out there with Deron Bland. That's a solid corner.
Well, if you can guarantee me they will be healthy, I'll move him to number 3. How's that?
No, I can't.
Okay.
I'll
move on.
I'll let the training staff handle that. But
move on, buddy.
But that's what I'm saying is
eat that green banana.
Once they, if they're healthy, I think that is not as big of a concern. But until they get to that point, then yes, it's absolutely a concern because we saw what happened last year with Andrew Booth at times when he would really get picked on. I think Kalen Carson was kind of in the same boat. I think back to that Eagles game where they just really picked on him, and then Kyer Elam has looked great at points in practice.
Yeah. He's been probably the biggest surprise.
Absolutely.
He's looked great.
But this is OTAs.
It's OTAs.
You said. There's no pads on.
Yeah.
This is when you're supposed to look good. Everybody should be looking good right now.
And I'll say one quick tidbit, and then I'll toss to you, Kyle, just to address something that I see going on in chat. First of all, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, because you're having a lot of good conversation.
This is probably the best chat we've seen.
Contributing
across the board. Love it. Let me correct something, because everyone who follows me and follows my stuff knows how I am about the salary cap and the narrative and false narratives around the salary cap. Yes, the Dallas Cowboys can bring in whomever presumably they would like to, because right now they have $32 million in salary cap space. And this is June 3rd. So any post or pre-June 1st transactions, those are already done. The money is there if they would like to add anyone. Stop blaming individual contracts for the front office's willingness or unwillingness to make moves, because the money's there. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. And another question out of the chat. Ace said we should give Phil Maffa a chance.
It'll also go higher if you get Micah Parsons' deal.
Yeah, it'll look great
this offseason. So.
Said we should give Phil Maffa a chance in that running back conversation. I think everybody has a chance in that running back conversation.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's going to be fun to figure out.
Wide open. Yeah, wide open.
It's going to be a blast.
This preseason, you're going to see everyone.
Every one of them.
The only one I think that may take the pads off is probably Javonte. I think they're pretty sold on him, just from conversations. I think they're pretty sold on Javonte being a guy. I don't know if they see him as the guy. I think they see him as a piece of this
solid
team
piece
moving
of the puzzle
forward. I don't know if he's the guy yet, which is still on his plate to take advantage of because he has that opportunity.
I was wondering how much of Miles Sanders, as the veteran,
he looked good out there too.
He had a good practice last week.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much of him we'll see in the preseason, just off the strength that in the preseason, yes, while you're doing evaluation, it is tilted heavily towards youthful evaluation.
Yeah. You're going to see a lot of Blue. You're going to see a lot of Vaughn.
Maffa,
you're going to see a lot of Maffa. Yeah, it's going to be wild. All right, one guy we will not see in the preseason is going to be George Pickens. I don't believe we'll see him at all. Of course, Brian Schottenheimer could change things and starters could play it all. Don't count on it. However, I want to know who he benefits most on the offensive side. If you're in the chat, give us your answer right now. Who is benefiting most from George Pickens being in Dallas? We'll give our answers when we come back right on the other side of the break with more Talkin' Cowboys.
Todd thought it would be secure to jog in the cheetah savanna. Todd believed the big cat repellent he bought online was reliable. And now, Todd is trying to be faster than this cheetah that can run 80 miles per hour. But the good news is, Todd has AT&T 5G that is fast, reliable, and secure. And he learned the best thing to do is stop running and toss her the backpack with the beef stew. AT&T 5G. Fast, reliable, secure.
5G requires compatible plan and device. 5G may not be available in your area. See att.com/5G for you for details.
They say champions are remembered, but legends are never forgotten. United Ag and Turf offers a winning lineup of John Deere equipment built to tackle any challenge on and off the field. Legendary John Deere tractors, combines, residential mowers, commercial mowers, compact construction equipment, Gator utility vehicles, and a full line of golf and sports turf equipment. United Ag and Turf, the official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com to find a location near you.
Hey y'all, Matt Pittman of Meat Church here. With football season kicking off, I'm already gearing up to bring the smoker back to AT&T Stadium for some epic tailgates. But with that Texas heat, it's crucial to keep my beer hand cramping cold. That's where Yeti's insulated Colster can cooler comes in clutch. This year, you can even get them with the iconic star engraved on the side. Licensed Yeti Cowboys gear is now available at Stadium Pro Shops, concessions, and on Yeti.com. Check it out today. Yeti, official cooler and drinkware of the Dallas Cowboys.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica, how much have I spent on concessions?
For questions about their money, Dallas Cowboys fans can turn to Erica, the virtual financial assistant in the Bank of America mobile banking app. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/Erica by your side. Bank of America, official bank of the Dallas Cowboys. Erica responses may vary. Digital tools featured require downloading the mobile banking app and may only be available on select mobile devices. Erica is a mobile feature only available in the English language. Your chat may be recorded and monitored for quality assurance. Message and data rates and additional terms may apply. Bank of America, N.A., member FDIC.
Back to Talkin Cowboys.
Back here on Talking Cowboys with Patrick Nosey-Walker, Josh Rodriguez, Tommy Yarish. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Chris Beam in the back. Asks the question, who does George Pickens' presence benefit the most? Who does it benefit the most? And we'll start with the obvious choice is Dak, right?
Yeah.
Good receiver helps your quarterback. We're going to take Dak out of the equation.
Okay.
So outside of Dak Prescott, who does it benefit the most? Josh Rodriguez.
CeeDee Lamb, baby. I think it opens up more for CeeDee Lamb. I think you now have to keep the secondary honest on the opposing team. I think now you have an opportunity for CeeDee Lamb to be able to get some of that heat off of him, man. And with George Pickens being on the field, you have to be honest. You have to say respect both wide receivers and say we have to cover both of these guys because this guy will take the top off.
I agree. But I'll see your CeeDee Lamb, and I'll raise you a Jake Ferguson. I'll see you that, because for me, yes, it is as obvious that it'll benefit CeeDee as it is as obvious that it'll benefit Dak Prescott. I think it's a little bit of a sleeper for Jake Ferguson in that when you're an opposing defense, if you have to account for two wide receiver ones, which is for all intents and purposes what you got with Pickens and Lamb, that's going to allow Jake Ferguson to do so much damage in the middle of that field. And we've seen Jake Ferguson be able to make plays after the catch and things like that, get him in space. Well, with Pickens and Lamb kind of keeping you horizontally stretched. Pause. I knew you were going to do it. I knew it. That's going to allow Jake Ferguson to be able to run those slants and those ends and sit down and catch those passes and then turn around and make plays against linebackers and smaller defensive backs and safeties who are trying to crash down on him, but one false move and then there's a missed tackle and there's chunk yardage to be had. So for me, I think it's going to be Jake Ferguson that benefits the most outside of the two obvious, which is CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. You are going to hell and taking me with you.
I didn't say it.
At least bring some ice water.
Nobody say anything.
CeeDee Lamb.
Just going to continue.
That was my
forward.
pick.
Who would be your pick?
Horizontal.
I think the easy answers are CD and Dak, and I think Patrick makes a really good point with Jake Ferguson, but I think this kind of alleviates a little bit off the run game too. I think when you've got the threat of two wide receivers like CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens playing on the same field together, that's a lot that you've got to account for if you're a defense. So maybe that opens things up for you. Maybe that means less crowded boxes that you've got to deal with when you're running the football. So if that's the case, then maybe a Javonte Williams or a Jaden Blue or a Miles Sanders can get something done for you. But that goes back to the need at running back. It's like if you had a guy and you had a guy that you knew you could count on, then that's a great situation for him there. But nonetheless, I think overall, if this run game is what Brian Schottenheimer and this coaching staff are wanting it to be, I think the addition of George Pickens helps your run game out a lot.
Isaiah agrees. Stand back dropped that same thing.
Oh, does he?
In the chat. He said
the running back room.
Let's go.
Running back. Yeah, I think, of course, it's going to help your run game. You still got to have to establish a run game.
Absolutely.
I mean, because we've talked about this many, many times over the years, but when is Dak Prescott at his best?
When he can play action.
Correct. When play action can be effective. So you've got to run the ball first in order for that to happen. I agree, though. The more you have a threat outside, and the more teams have to allocate their resources to try and slow down both CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, it's going to open things up. You're going to see lighter boxes. You're going to see less run game support. You're going to be able to run the football more effectively and then thus establish the run, play action, then builds on top of that, and it's good for everybody. This is why adding a legitimate wide receiver 2 was such a concern this year, because you felt close. And that's where I'm just going to continue adding on the layers here. I think guys like Jalen Tolbert do benefit. Whoever takes that wide receiver 3 spot's going to benefit. Let's put it that way, because it is a wide open conversation between Tolbert, Turpin, Mingo, Flanoy, whoever wants to be in that conversation. Wide receiver 3 is wide open. And I keep going back to last year. Jalen Tolbert had 7 touchdowns, which led the team last year. If he can still have some level of impact, similar stat line, doesn't even have to have the 7 touchdowns. He's 5 or 6. He has some level of production. He could be widely known as one of the better wide receiver 3s in the league, with one of the better wide receiver duos in front of him.
He just can't have that number 2 spotlight on him. I really think that is just very non-beneficial to what he's able to do. He fits
into this role.
Yeah.
He fits into this role. And so I think he'll be the one that ultimately takes over the wide receiver 3 spot, because he's done it in the regular season. He's done it throughout practice, and he's been one of those guys that Brian Schottenheimer
He's
has
already got
talked
chemistry
about.
with Dak.
He's got chemistry.
He's reliable in that 3rd slot, for sure.
I think it's a perfect fit. So it just moves everybody else down the line, down the depth chart, and it helps them fit into those roles better and better. I agree with Ferguson. I agree with the run game. I agree with everybody else that's out there, CD, in terms of Pickens' availability. That's why you had to add this wide receiver 2.
That's fair.
I like
or
this.
1B, or however you want to
However you want to say it. Ace Boogie painted a picture in the comments.
My guy, Ace. Okay. He's been on fire today.
I like this, though. I can't wait to see CD, Pickens, Turpin, and Blue on the field together.
Package. NASCAR package.
Stretch them horizontally.
It's an offensive NASCAR package.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that, though. I mean, as a defense,
that's a lot of speed.
That's an attack formation.
That's a lot of speed.
That's an attack.
That's a lot of speed, man.
Yeah,
that's an attack.
I like
formation.
it. I like this.
Like, seriously. Also, shout out to CD Piglet earlier. I called it, my fellow spelling bee guy. He said he was in spelling bee. He went to state twice. That guy did. Shouts out to everyone who's ever participated in spelling bee. It's pressure.
That was the weirdest shout out I've ever.
Shout out to spelling bees.
Shout out to everyone who's ever participated.
Damn right.
It's
about versatility on this show, right? We're talking football. We're talking spelling bee.
A little bit of everything. I mean, we could talk basketball. The Orlando Magic had a great rebrand this week.
It's a little familiar, is it not?
Greatest rebrand
What are you talking
ever.
about?
The star looks a little italicized.
The star on their logo.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Did you not see it?
On like the word mark?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He's
don't
saying if you unitalicize it.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, move that over into the camera, because I agree with you. It looks like instead of hitting bold, they hit italicize on their Word document.
Just saying.
It's a little different.
Hey, those uniforms, though.
They are sweet.
Man.
Yeah.
Hell, we were even talking Italian during the break.
That's true. We were talking.
Kyle woke up to just Italian fragrances, Italian cooking wafting through his residence.
He says that while about to eat a plantain over there, dude. Look at how green this banana is.
Dude, this
it needs to grow up. Your banana needs to grow up.
It's going to sit on my desk for 3 days first, and then we'll attack it.
It's just so immature.
The plantano over there.
It's immature.
One thing you want to see from OTAs as we wrap up this edition. Final OTA practice open to the media is today, and then we get into minicamp where we get to see all of practice next week, which will be fun.
I want to see better accuracy from Joe Milton. Is what I want to see. I've seen him make some throws where I've raised an eyebrow and I'm like, you know what? There it is. There it is. And I've seen some throws where I'm like, you know what? That ain't it.
That's not it.
That's not it at all. Arm strength is definitely not the issue whatsoever. Athleticism is definitely not the issue. He just needs to be more consistent with his ball placement. So I want to see more accuracy, or I should say more consistency in his accuracy as we go into a 3-day minicamp next week.
I actually charted their throws last week. So in the full 11 on 11, Dak went, and the reason I charted this, somebody put it up on like ESPN for the Browns quarterback room. I don't know why there's a graphic for OTAs.
I saw that.
Because it's the Browns quarterback room.
I guess it's because it's the Browns quarterback room.
Their head coach.
If you want to make a graphic out of this, more power to you, but it's OTAs, guys. Come on. 4 for 6, Dak. There were a couple deep shots. He threw a
4 for 6.
Threw a dime to CeeDee Lamb down the left sideline and just hit CeeDee's hands and it fell incomplete. That catch is going to be made on Sundays. And then he had a curl broken up by Kyer Elam, who had a really nice play on Jake Ferguson. That was a 4 for 6. And then Milton went 4 for 5 last week, but it was really underneath. They didn't really try the deep ball a ton. He missed his first one, and then he ended up completing everything after that. But it was all sliding catch over the middle. There was one spinning catch up the seam from Princeton Fant, who made a nice play, turned back to the ball, spun around and kept going. And then outs on the sideline, and then another sliding catch over the back shoulder by Jonathan Mingo. So last week was decent in the full team portion. 7-on-7 was a little bit shakier. He went 3 for 5 in that passing side of things. But again, it's OTAs. Yep. Just want to see more accuracy.
Consistency.
More consistency.
Stat good days.
Build on top of it.
Yeah,
but just to add to your point there.
I don't want to give you guys a real answer, so I'm going to go with this. I want to see the Nike Vapor Pro 1. CeeDee Lamb's signature cleat. I want to go see that bad boy.
Is that the one with the snot on it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the slime.
Yeah, that's petty. I like petty.
Those are
it's the snotty nose.
It's the snot because he can't do the celebration anymore.
Have you seen him?
Put it on his shirt.
Well, I thought it was slime.
I mean, slime. Yeah,
slime green.
Nobody wants to buy snot shoes, but
that's why I call it slime green.
But yeah, it's a reference to the snotty nose.
Yeah.
Am I going to get fined now?
Maybe.
I hope so.
It'd be pretty funny.
Please don't say that.
I hope you can.
That would be a great segment next week.
But that's what I'm looking for at OTAs. I'm going to go out there and get a peek at them.
Today, looking for, is there more of a steady first-team defensive line? There's been so much rotation with, at the both defensive tackle and off the edge. You've got Solomon Thomas, Mozzie Smith, Oso Digizua, all rotating in and out. The Toia we talked about takes some first-team reps. But really at edge, too, we've seen Dante Fowler, Peyton Turner, Marshawn Nealon. Sam Williams is off working to the side, but he's going to be in that equation. So there's just a lot of Donovan Azaraku, the second-round pick. So there's a lot of rotating and a lot of trying to figure things out. Now that we've got 2 more OTAs left, and this is the last one that we get to see, do things start to get a little bit more solidified before we head into minicamp? That's what I'll be looking for today.
Melvin, I see what you did there.
What did he say?
He said, "Oh, he's not talking about that kind of slime. That's a different conversation. We can't talk about it on the air because if you actually know what the nose white means,
it's not good.
I'm not going to put that out there for you.
Oh, see, I don't know what it means.
I'll tell you off the air.
Okay, we'll talk about it later.
It's cool, blood. It's cool.
Okay, all right. Well, when we come back next week, it'll be our final episode of the season. Final episode of the off season.
I was going to say what?
Season hasn't started yet.
Where are we?
We will be back in training camp. Is it
already mid-February? See what I did there?
I hope so. But yeah, once we'll wrap up the off season next week. We'll talk about what to expect going into the summer, and then after that, the next time the mics turn back on, we'll be in the cool, crisp air of Oxnard, California. But we got one more show, and we'll be back next week. Tommy, do you know if you're back next week?
If Isaiah's not,
I don't. I think
I think he's out.
You think he's out?
Yeah.
Well, then we'll see Isaiah in training camp. We'll see Tommy next week. For Patrick No-C Walker, for Josh Rodriguez, Tommy Yarish, Chris Beam in the back, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long from Talking Cowboys. We'll see you next week.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?